It will not be in contradiction to the plan. In fact, it will be ingrained with this plan.
Is it safe to assume that with all the processes in place, can I continue? Is it safe to assume that with all the processes in place that ensure that everything is being regulated and audited by different entities, the state would be held responsible to regulate everything evenly, and hence it would be justified to give land into their hands? Is this the learnings that we should have out of this?
You see, the Department of Justice is based on a factor of adjudication, and their principal role is to adjudicate between the governors and the governed. Once you have the processes in place, the adjudication becomes absolutely contained. Even the judiciary, which has a lot of mudslinging against them right now, will not be able to take a detour from the path they are supposed to be managing. If I have understood your question right, then once the land is with one central body, it serves two purposes. One, it ensures the productivity of the land for land revenue to manage the governmental cost, and the other is to make sure that the land is given out on a predefined, demarcated purpose. Anybody trying to breach that, whether it is a politician or a bureaucrat, will be unable to do so. Right now, there is no land available with the government of Pakistan. You go and ask, I mean, look at Karachi city, for instance. You go and ask about the availability of land in Karachi city. You'll be told this land belongs to Karachi Port Trust, that land belongs to Civil Aviation Authority, that land belongs to the railways, that land belongs to the Defence Housing Authority, that land belongs to a cantonment, that land belongs to another cantonment, and so on and so forth. The revenue, the rules, the regulations are not evenly applicable, and the rot which has come about in the institutions that are holding these lands is that they have all become landlords. The principal work they are doing, for instance, I am the chairman of Karachi Port Trust. I have got a lot of land. So, to make my port competitive and in consonance with world standards, I am not even pushed about it. I have not even read how ports ought to be run. I am just worried about, have the rent come from the beach huts at Sandspits and Hawke's Bay? Has the rent come from the people who have built their buildings on my land? He's a landlord, he's a Chaudhry. That's not his job. If Karachi Port Trust was a lessee and the lessor hypothetically was the Surveyor General of Pakistan, and he was required to pay rent for the land he was holding, believe me, he would just stick to the port area, because he would not want to pay for land on which there is no port activity. So, the holding of land by one governmental organization that has, by modern technology today, you can count each inch of land which belongs to the government of Pakistan or belongs to us, the people being managed by the government of Pakistan. They should be the principal lessor. Institutions, individuals, legal entities should all be lessees. That was my proposal. But reverting back to the subject we are talking about, in modern managemental sciences today, institutions are not run in the form of a pyramid. It is an inverted pyramid. That means the processes are so defined that the first point of contact knows exactly what to do or what that institution or organization is meant to do, and the chief is really a regulator and a person monitoring efficiency, transparency, and is accountable to the regulators and to the public that are paying for the institution to be there. Take the fisheries, take municipal organizations here, like the KMC, for instance, or the KDA, for instance. They don't have any processes. It is being run on whims. We are not 300 years behind time. Modern sciences, in managemental sciences, auditing sciences, bookkeeping sciences have all primed to a stage where they have to be invoked. So a man coming to the top in any institution has to be familiar with the law and with the processes that they need to follow. You want to go and take a passport, you want to go and take a driving license, you have to wait. The first point of contact is a broker. He will tell you when you will get your driving license, how will you get it, how much bribe you need to pay for it. He will even fill your forms. It is nonsensical. The processes are not defined. When you ask them why are they not defined, he says, well, wo sahab baitha hua hai, he'll do it. The sahab is an idiot. He's been picked out on a political consideration from somewhere inside a village, and all he does know is protocol. Will I get a new car? Will I get a bungalow to live in? Will I have 3 people walking in front of me and 5 behind me? That's it. The processes have to be defined. These have to be properly managed, efficiently, and on the basis of modern managemental sciences. Ji.
Sir, you talked about how we should focus on appointees for higher ups like ministers based on merit. When we talk about people who are appointed based on governmental grounds, is different from when we are appointing them based on merit. For example, if I take an example that we appointed Arif Mia recently, the health minister resigned, recently the head of Digital Pakistan resigned, based on the factors that they were people that were very qualified for the job. They still resigned because of the external issues. How are we going to eradicate those external issues that are not contained within the problem that they are not qualified for a job, but people have a lot of things against them. People have a lot of politics, internal politics working against them. Even though they are qualified, they do not stick to the job.
To remain within the framework of what we are discussing, let's get a few things straight. Number one, that you have in a nation state territory, you have population, and you have a government. In the case of Pakistan, you have about 220 million people that represent the population of the country. You have territory, which is spread over about 880 or whatever square kilometers, 880 something thousand kilometers. And then you have a government. Now the government are like managers. They are appointed to represent you, represent 220 million people, and you appoint them with 2-3 purposes, broad purposes in mind. Number one, that they look after your welfare, they will serve and protect your liberties, and 3, that they will be your servants. They will not be your rulers, they will be your servants. notwithstanding what the Constitution of Pakistan has to say about all this. But this is the bare reality on the ground. Now, you have voted people and they have gone to the parliament, and their job is to manage these basic macro objectives of your welfare, your protection of your liberties, your security, and your facilities, the development of the infrastructure, etc. It is based on a certain ideology. It is based on the basis of what you believe in, the people predominantly believe in, and that is their job. Under them are institutions of the state. You have airports, you have railways, you have seaports, you have policies that allow enterprise freely to flourish in this country, bring in revenue, cause industrialization, cause free trade and commerce, all based on your founding philosophy. Now, the cost of those 2.6 million people who are running the country, who represent the government, starting from the president down to a janitor in KMC, these 2.6 million people, they are being paid from your taxes. Hypothetically, that cost represents 100 rupees. To maintain this sort of a 2.6 million people, it costs you 100 bucks. Now, what's happening in this country is that these 2.6 million people are securing the inflow of that 100 bucks from taxes and from external borrowing. And they are only worried about that. Their principal objective of being there as a government to serve the population has become oblivious to them. They are absolutely indifferent to it. Whether it is the judiciary, whether it is the army, whether it is the civil bureaucracy, whether it is the politicians and the parliaments, they have gone into a different mindset. They have become sick. They have started imagining that they are rulers because of the set of laws they inherited from the Britishers. They have started imagining they are rulers and we are servants. And they have disregarded merit, and they have used politics as a tool to remain and protect the status quo. They have been borrowing unabated, it's without audit. They have been spending unabated without any authority to do so. They are following standards which are contrary even within. They have no roadmaps for economic development, for social reforms. So you have a mad bunch of 2.6 million people who have taken 220 million people hostage, and all they are worried about is how much money they can make. So apart from the money they are getting officially as their rents, as their perks, as their salaries, they are also robbing you through bribes on a continuous basis. The formal economy in Pakistan and the informal economy or the black economy is 12 times greater. And this needs psychiatric reformations. It's got nothing to do with politics. They are incompetent people, devoid of merit, who are heading institutions. These institutions have to be reorganized, right-sized, and be run professionally. And then they have divided the Muslim population of Pakistan by putting tags, religious tags of Sunnis and Shias, by putting parochial tags on people, provincial tags on people, ये पंजाबी है, वो सिंधी है, वो बलोची है, वो पता नहीं क्या है. We are Pakistanis. We sing the same national anthem. We live on the same territory. We belong here. My loyalty cannot be questioned by the loyalty of anybody else in any who is wearing a uniform, for instance, at my cost. No, impossible. You take a federal bureaucrat. One guy was flying with me. Unfortunately, the plane was full. He had to sit in the middle seat. He was so upset that he asked for the captain of the flight to come and see him. And he announced for everybody to hear that he's a federal bureaucrat, federal secretary. It's mental sickness that has plagued them. You're talking about political governments of Imran Khan or Nawaz Sharif or Benazir Bhutto or anybody else. They all suffered from the same mental problem. They must realize they are servants. They belong there. They belong to a place from where they are supposed to serve, not rule. You had another president who wrote a book, Friends Not Masters. The book should have been titled, Your Principal Servant. He's not a friend. He's been employed for a job. He should do his job. If he is not fit to do the job, he should exit. Somebody else should take over. 220 million people have got a lot of valuable human resource here to replace anybody in the country, whether it's a journal or a judge or a federal secretary or a prime minister or president or anybody. It doesn't matter. Sure, go ahead.
Sir, I would like to assume, or I would want to ask you if it's safe to assume that we are proposing that all of these government institutions are technically operate similarly like publicly listed companies. So for example, the 220 million people own these government institutions because they are paying taxes. They are shareholders of these government institutions. They get audited.